Hello, one and all, to the Video Game Town Hall podcast. This is a bonus special episode. It will get its own article, its own video breakout, I'm sure. I'll probably put some B-roll footage on top of all this. I am your host, Jared Russo. But more importantly, we have a very special guest. I know it is spelled weird, but it's Jenna Stoeber.
Yes.
If you're watching this, you don't know who this person is. Come on. Internet famous pop culture and media expert, horror guru, researcher from the University of Wisconsin, go Badgers, has been in countless video essays from across the web, including a very recent video my fiance loves because it's about Dogpile.
Yeah, Dogpile's so good.
Dogpile's incredible. And at any moment could leave this recording and go be a professional Wikipedia citation checker.
Oh my God.
Jenna, how are you doing?
Wikipedia would be so lucky.
Yes. How are you doing, Jenna?
I'm so happy to be here to talk Resident Evil. Love Resident Evil. Mixed feelings about Resident Evil Requiem, but I haven't finished it. So we're gonna give it time. I might come around on it yet. I am thrilled to be here.
Thank you so much.
Thrilled to talk Resident Evil.
Oh, anytime.
Yes. And now especially because it's more justified now than normal, which is great. So I'm just frequently talking about Resident Evil. And right now I feel like, okay, it's okay for me to be doing so.
It is the appropriate time because it seems like this is the year of the Resident Evil franchise. Resident Evil.
Yes, it's taking over. It's everywhere. We've got a new game that just came out, Requiem. We've got a movie that I believe is supposed to come out this year, or maybe it just went into production.
It's slated for September.
That's shocking.
Yeah.
It's
in the
shocking
can,
to me.
as they say in the industry.
Oof.
It is a fascinating property because it is such a unique set of circumstances that horror and blockbuster have come together to take over video games. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's like a big spooky game. And it's been going really, really long with a ton of spin-offs, ups and downs, and yet it is still like a cultural force. I can't think of anything even like it in the industry.
Yeah, there isn't. I feel like most other massive, especially survival horror franchises, it often gets paired with Silent Hill. But Silent Hill, I mean, they're trying. They are trying to resurrect Silent Hill to greater or lesser success, depending on your opinion of the most recent Silent Hill game. But Resident Evil has never really gone away. Every couple of years, there's another Resident Evil game. But that also means it's just kind of a mess. It's a real mess of a franchise.
Indeed. Yeah, I'm on looking up a list of every single release since 1996, and there are years in which there isn't a game. But there's not a lot of those years, and honestly, the biggest gap is between 2023 and 2026.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of little spin-offs that are sort of padding out those ranks, and the remakes sort of bought them a little bit of time after Biohazard. But yeah, it's also at a time when no popular video game franchises were getting movies, they were still making Resident Evil movies.
Yes. I saw some wild stat on the total tally where it's 30 games, 7 live action movies, 5 animated movies, 2 TV series. It's when did all oh my, it's just such a blur because I remember that original coming out and it being okay, this is good. It's not amazing, but it's. And then they just kept going and.
Yeah.
Mila Jovovich. Who knows? Who knows where those ended up? I'm sure they introduced Wesker and all those other characters, and I don't know if it's canon.
Yes.
Who can keep track?
I sat down with a partner several years ago, and we were we're gonna watch all of the Paul W.S. Anderson Resident Evil movies, and we And we're horror fans. We love a schlocky horror. We could not finish. I think we got to Afterlife, and I think there are a couple after that we simply did not manage to get to, because it was they seemed like they were having a lot of fun, is what I'll say, but they were not particularly enjoyable movies.
You were not having fun watching them, was the ultimate takeaway.
No.
Even though they had fun making them.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't make a conscious decision to abandon a project. Sometimes you and the project ghost each other. And that's sort of how it was with the Resident Evil Paul W.S. Anderson movies. It was just like, we never talked about it. We just sort of agreed that we weren't going to watch any more of them by virtue of never offering to watch the remaining ones.
I've been there. That happens. You're like, I'm going to do all of whatever. And you get like halfway through and you're like, oh man, what did I sign up for?
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jenna, the reason I brought you on specifically is because you have a very big background in horror. And I would like to let everyone who's listening know how deep does your expertise go? Why are you the master?
I've got a master's degree, if that's what you're referencing. I have a master's degree from University of Wisconsin-Madison in video game cultures and horror media. And I did specialize in particular in survival horror games as a genre. And that involved playing and reading and doing a lot with Resident Evil and Silent Hill, because those are sort of the core anchors. I mean, Resident Evil is the game that coined the phrase survival horror, and horror games are a lot different. Survival horror is, I would say, not even the most prominent subgenre of horror game anymore, but it certainly was for a really, really long time. And Resident Evil didn't create the genre of survival horror, but it did create the name of the genre of survival horror. But there were games that predated it that were doing sort of similar things. But Resident Evil, such an incredible games. So fun, so goofy. Have you played the first and like the early Resident Evils?
So the very first one I ever played was the remake of one for GameCube.
Ooh,
I rented it from Blockbuster, and I was like, this is too scary.
Oh, no, really?
Dogs are jumping through windows. Like, I'm out.
Yeah.
And then I remember reading a lot of gaming magazines in the year 2005 and being online, and everyone said that RE4 was the greatest game ever made. And I said, there's no way. And then I bought it, and I played it, and I went, man, they were right. And ever since, it was just like, all right, well, let me dip back into what I missed and let me play what's coming out next. And I got my friends into it, and then now it's sort of just like a tradition to gather people around. I just did it recently. Got my friends over. We played through Requiem. It was a blast. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's extremely sweet.
And so, yeah, like you're saying, this happens with games. Tetris was not the first puzzle game, but it was like the first big puzzle game. And then things came after. Same with first-person shooters. Like, there were things before Doom, but then everything was a Doom clone. And I feel like they just figured it out with that original PS1 game. It was very corny. It's very campy. It's very iconic. And it just tapped into something that no one else had been able to do on that level. Like, I know there were a lot of, like, not Night Trap, but, like, you know, like the 2D point and click or side scrolly things. Yeah. There was a whole lot of stuff, you know. Oh, let's put in Jason from, you know, Friday the 13th, and it's whatever. But Ari nailed it.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a fascinating movie. Like, not movie. It's such a fascinating game. Part of what I think is so fascinating about Resident Evil and its whole lineage, especially coming up to now, once again, getting a big blockbuster release, is that, like, the Resident Evil initial games were so heavily inspired by and based on American zombie movies. And that's always been part of the lineage to a certain extent, although I think part of what makes the game as a whole, the games as a whole franchise kind of messy is the extent to which they kind of reject that horror basis in order to get into the action kind of genre. But like the first Resident Evil 1 and 2, those games are so cinematic, kind of like Night Trap, where it is like, where in Night Trap you're having the literal POV of a camera. But in Resident Evil, you're sort of metaphorically in an action movie. And so much about the games are about structuring it so that, you know, oh, you're walking down a hallway, suddenly there's dogs, jump scare. The most iconic moment from the Resident Evil games, in my opinion. And things like that, which really kind of anchor it in this very American Night of the Living Dead style horror. So good. And then for the extent to which like movies will be based on Resident Evil games, I think that's just such an interesting back and forth flow between games and cinema, and thinking about like, what can these two mediums borrow from each other? What can they rip off from each other? What works and what doesn't?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the need for IPs to be mined forever, but like, I don't need an Uncharted movie. Those Uncharted games are like pretty much exactly what I wanted and what I got. So it was almost like extraneous to just be like, oh, they're just going to do the scene from 3 where he's like hanging out of the back of the, like, what? But what I love about those original games is the sort of core gameplay loop of puzzle box area. You move around, you explore. It's very spooky. Limited inventory space, limited ammo, and you pick up an item or a key or a coin or something, and you got to walk to the other side, and you might bump into a zombie, who knows? But it's never going to be like, I mean, as they went, it got way less structured of just like, at any point, Mr. X could come and punch you in the face. So it was just the constant tension of like, maybe 90% of the time, nothing's going to jump out at you as you're going back and forth on the map to solve the puzzles. But that 10%, you never know.
Yeah. I mean, they're such masterful games in terms of thinking about, like your resources, you know, inventory space, that's a resource. Saves, that's a resource. You have to have an item in order to save. That's such an interesting way about thinking. It's such an interesting way to think about resources in video games. And coupled with like the atmosphere and all the zombies and the crazy mansion setting and the crazy puzzles, which are so video gamey. Like, they're so dedicated to being just insane, super unpractical, super unrealistic puzzles that I really appreciate that about the Resident Evil franchise. And I like to see that in Resident Evil Requiem, in so much as I have only played like 3 or so hours of it. But it's fun to see, like, oh, I have to get a weird gem to fit inside this unicorn door in order to get into this room. It's just like, that's so silly. It's so inherently silly. There's something very camp about it. And those sorts of things don't translate well in a movie. So it's like, what things do we think are core to Resident Evil that can translate to movies that aren't things that were already stolen from movies? I don't know that there is much, but I also don't know that I might.
Yeah. It is so fascinating to think that these games are obsessed with like a horse statue and like angels and like cherubs on doors and keys, and it is so like overly goofy, but the way that like for the most part it takes it dead seriously. It's like, we're gonna have like Dutch angles and like all the camera, you know, like the atmosphere is tense and we're telling a serious story about like scientific like Frankenstein experiments gone wrong. And then it's just like you read the itchy tasty note, you know, like it is like a perfect katana blade of funny and like, my friends can't play this. It is just like they shit their pants. And for me, great timing is hilarious. So like, I find horror very funny because if it's like a perfectly placed pop-up scare or something like that, like that's why I like Zach Cregger's movies, because like I find them very cathartic and comedic. We'll get around to him later. And the other thing I was going to say is that the original games and 4, very big deals in terms of perspective, in terms of where the camera is placed in those games, because those early games are very much about like we have the the background and it looks gorgeous, but as long as you don't move the camera and it's right here, this is what we want. And then for 4, it was behind the shoulder, and now everyone does cameras behind the shoulder. So it's like this franchise is like synonymous with like camera placement and perspective in games, which is like sort of like monumental.
Yeah, the same thing is true for Silent Hill, where it's like you have the early Silent Hill and Resident Evil games by virtue of the hardware limitations, having to sort of commit to this fixed frame, kind of very, very cinematic, very camera-based angles, where it'll be like a really high up or overhead kind of shot, or like really down low, and like very, very almost experimental, or it would be experimental if it weren't copped from horror movies, I think. And it is one of those things where it's like, it's inevitable as a franchise progresses, some things that were defining of the earlier games are going to be left behind. But that's one of the things that I really miss from the over the shoulder or the third person or the first person camera shots, which is that they're so functional, but they're not very artistic. They're not very cinematographic. What word am I looking for there, Jared?
Cinematech. No, that's not right.
they lack the artistic flair and the sort of thoughtful approach that you kind of have to have if you're doing a fixed camera angle. And so that's a shame. But I do think let me ask you, so Resident Evil Requiem, you play as 2 different characters.
You sure do.
You play as Grace and you play as Leon. The default camera for those 2 characters is different. For Grace, it's first person. For Leon, it's this over-the-shoulder third person. What do you make of that? How did that feel playing?
It felt like 2 different games smashed together, and I understand why they did it. For me, this is what Resident Evil 6 should have been. It is a love letter to the series. It is nothing but fan service out the wazoo. It is here is 7 and 8. Here's you're in her shoes. You're in Grace's shoes. You're in this big crazy place. Here's your map. Go find the keys. You only get a few bullets. I mean, like, it is trying to scare the pants off you. And with Leon, it's like, remember how much ass you kicked in 4 and 5? You're back at it again, bro. Leon Scott Kennedy. And so it is like merging those 2 games, obviously, like the remakes and the new ones. And what I found is that it worked. I was able to like separate the 2 halves of my brain. I've actually beat this game twice, and I flipped the camera perspectives to see.
Oh, interesting.
And I liked playing Grace in third person. I actually think I was like, for me, I'm not losing anything. She trips, she stumbles, she falls. You get to see around corners, but like she still is very vulnerable, and she has shaky aim, and like it worked. The first person for Leon does not work.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, he has quite a lot of very elaborate, like, finishing moves.
Yeah. A lot of kicks.
And how do they deal with that with first person?
It's like Indiana Jones and I was going to say Dial of Destiny, the Great Circle, where that's in first person, and then it'll, like, he's climbing up a pipe, so it'll go into third, or, like, it'll sort of go back and forth. With this, it's even worse because, like, in third person, you can like attach scopes to guns, and you can even toggle whether you want the camera to zoom in closer or just go first person. And it just felt like the aiming was not right in first person with him. And there's a lot of going back and forth between like he does like a cartwheel kick, or he does like a spin kick, or he like cut someone's head off, and it goes right back into first, and it's like someone's behind me. And I was just like, this is too much. So I would just prefer Resident Evil to be in third person going forward. That's just me.
That sounds very disorienting.
Yeah, it works. Both camera angles work for Grace. Just play Leon in third person.
Okay. Yeah, there's something. I mean, it's you hit on something that I'm really worried about as I continue my playthrough, which is that it will feel like two separate games that occasionally overlap in setting. Because that's how it's felt so far. Because the gameplay is so, everything about how the game is structured feels so different from Leon versus Grace. And I appreciate that they're trying to have it both ways,
Yep.
right? Like they're trying to have that earnest, spooky survival horror experience of like, you have to pick up this ruby in order to open this door, but your pockets are full of green herbs,
Yep.
so you're gonna have to make a hard decision. Versus the Resident Evil 4 of it all, where they're just like, nope, you're an action guy. Punch, punch. Sharpen your axe mid-combat. Block this. Use your gun to parry this chainsaw. It's just like, that's fun. But bouncing between the two it's kind of disorienting.
Yeah. I mean, maybe not like super disorienting because they do share a lot of the same levels, and there is like a fun little bit of crossover with the zombies. I don't intentionally burst their heads open with my gun as Grace or inject a thing and like make their brains explode with blood. They will, like the people who I just shoot in the leg and they fall, they're still a threat, so I could save them for Leon. And there are like certain doors and cabinets I can't open as Grace, so I'll save those for Leon. But they don't get into it in the same way that like RE2 had Claire and Leon's like A and B campaigns. It's not quite that level. So I think both work. I think both are very effective. Like the Grace moments, which are primarily the first half of the game, are awesome. I really enjoy them. And the Leon parts, what he gets to do and the guns and the upgrades, it's never felt better. It's more Leon heavy in the second half, and I would not necessarily say that some of the environments are the most eye-catching, they're not the most visually appealing. Sometimes I get a little lost because I'm like, man, it's a lot of brown and gray. It's very dark and ugh. Whereas the parts with Grace, it's like, oh, I know what they're doing and I love it. I know they have every hallway where you turn the corner. It's like, oh, this is masterful stuff because I'm going at such a slow pace. You get the stretch out smaller levels. Like, you said you're 3 hours in, correct?
Yeah, just about.
So you presumably have met a very large monster as Grace, and there's just like one main L-shaped hallway with different rooms and lights.
Yeah.
And it's like the amount of like time they can stretch that small hallway out with the lights and double backing and like, like some, she'll smash through a wall and create like an opening to sort of rope-a-dope her. Like that stuff is so well designed. It's so great. So yeah, this game is very good is what I'm trying to say. This game is very good.
I mean, you've played it twice, so clearly it's hidden.
I think I've played all the remakes or in 7 and 8 multiple times because they sort of lend themselves to a new game plus and bonuses and outfits and infinite ammo and things like that. So it is fun to just kind of zip through it twice as fast, knowing where everything is with all these extra goodies.
Yeah, I've seen some people complaining that Resident Evil Requiem is about a 10-hour game. But my understanding is that it is meant to be played through multiple times in kind of the same way Silent Hill F was. So I don't know. People don't seem to be upset that it's only 10 hours long for the most part. I think there's just a few people who are like, well, for a $70 game or so, it should have a little bit longer runtime. But the Resident Evil games have sort of always been intended to be played multiple times.
Yeah.
They've always got a robust new game plus.
I would say that there's very little fat in RE Requiem. So going through the second time, there were very, very few moments in which I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I have to like walk slowly as the story, like those moments are very far and few and in between.
Nice.
I will say that the in-game timer is a liar. The in-game timer told me it was only a 10-hour playthrough, and I was like, I'm pretty sure this was like 15 or more, because I took my sweet time. So I think it only counts like when you're moving your character, not when you're in a menu, not when you're in your inventory, like not when you're watching a cutscene. So like I think that in-game timer is a liar.
Okay, that's good
Yeah.
to know. I'm wondering if that's fudging people's perception of how long the game takes.
I think it has to. I mean, also there's a lot of people who aren't going to find every like Mr. Raccoon bobblehead. I'm one of those people who wants to do that. Some people just want to get the hell out of that mansion because they're too freaked out.
Yeah.
So
That's fair. It's a freaky mansion. Freaky, comma, beautiful. I truly blown away at like how gorgeous this game is.
this is a looker, and the audio design is awesome, and the music,
Oh, yeah.
and like it is so rare. And I have to appreciate these moments when they happen, but it's so rare for AAA gaming, capital AAA, AAA gaming, to deliver such like a high quality, well thought out, and well paced single player thing, because it really does seem like this industry is like, Blue Point, we don't need them. And it's just like, oh man, like thank God Capcom has it together, because like I could not fathom like not having more of these games around.
Yeah, I mean, you can always count on a Resident Evil game to just be a game. Even as they've like gotten a little more gun shy about some of the gamification elements, it's still like, you're going to sit down and play a real game. And that doesn't always feel like the case with games these days.
Yeah, I think it has been a very long time since the RE6 days of like, what are they doing? Like, what is this busted, stupid thing? And it's just like, this is what I think they were trying to aim for, which was like pleasing both camps. Like, literally giving people another third-person RE remake-style game with Leon. And it's like, man, you sharpen that hatchet and you like shove your gun in people's mouths, and like all these like contextual kills, whether you're like up against a wall or whatever. And it's so much fun. And the great stuff is equally just as tense and gripping and elaborate and ornate as some of the castles in 8, or that mog infested swampy gives me the willies. So out of the 3 hours, where are you still playing as Grace in that main first area?
Yeah, I'm in the second wing of the hospital. So I made it through the area with the chef, and I crossed over, and I'm now in the second area, clearing that out.
Okay, and you're liking this game as well.
Yes.
Ooh, there was a little bit of a pause there. Okay.
Yeah, I am enjoying it. I'm nervous about a couple of aspects. The first one being, wow, which one do I consider first? The first one being, I think it's, I don't love the choice of making the segments of the game where you're a girl the scary, spooky, kind of less competent sections, and then the sections where you're hyper competent and super strong and a badass are our boy Leon sections. Because Resident Evil, I mean, has from the start sort of been a female-led franchise, because you start off with Jill Valentine in Resident Evil 1, and you always had like Claire, but it just feels like, so you have all these icons. You've got Jill, you've got Claire, you've got Ada Wong, and it really feels like they keep bringing characters back, but they're not really bringing back any of the female characters. And so in a way, and maybe there's something, this is part of why I'm holding off my reservations for this game, is that like maybe, as some of these characters show up, maybe Claire Redmond gets to be in this game. Maybe Ada gets to be in this game. But it is sort of like they keep bringing back Chris Redfield. They keep bringing back Leon. Leon gets to be an old, cool badass now. And it's just like, where are any of the female characters that I love from this franchise? And so in a way, I'm kind of frustrated, because it does feel like kind of a regression to have yet another game where you're the competent badass guy is there, and then you do have a female character, but she is, by the game's mere structure, put in a case where she's afraid and she's less competent, and I find that all very frustrating.
I'll do you one better.
Yeah.
I think a problem with Grace, and this is a big quibble I have with this game, is for most of the runtime, she's still very like, I have the stutters. Ah. And it's like, you've killed like 30 zombies, you know, like you have all these guns. Like, I could see that happening at the beginning, but even when she like is sitting at her desk, she like knocks over her paperwork, and it's like,
yeah,
presumably you're like a very intelligent person, Grace. You got hired by the FBI. Like, shouldn't you be driven to find the mysteries about your mom and like what happened in your past? And it's like you get to like hour 10 and it's still just like, there's a ghost, Scoob. And that was like, okay, like you guys are really hammering home that she, like, I get it, but like, I don't remember Rebecca Chambers doing this stuff. Like, I don't remember. Yeah, it's just so that is an issue. You hit the nail on the head. And I would not imagine that these complaints are going to get solved by the time you finish your first playthrough.
Yeah. My other concern is that did you play Alan Wake 2?
Jenna, I love Alan Wake 1 and 2. Alan Wake 2 was my game of the year it came out. I was Alan Wake for Halloween one year at college.
Incredible. I mean, a low-hanging fruit of a costume,
yeah.
I'll say. There are things that I really liked about Alan Wake 2, and I thought the two-hander structure was really interesting, where we're sort of bouncing back and forth between the dream realm with Alan and our more like grounded Earth-based sections. But I did have some sort of frustrations with the sheer gameplay aspect of that, which is that they have the same like loadout of equipment, but I would be playing as Alan Wake and run out of healing items and then be like, oh, well, I've got a ton of healing items back in my other body, and things like that, where it was like, I found there to be a little bit of an unpleasant friction there. I'm not deep enough in Requiem to know if I think that's going to be an issue here, but it's something I'm sort of keeping an eye on as I progress.
Okay. I mean, I definitely think that as long as you know going in that, like, Grace's inventory is limited and you're constantly going back to save rooms to, like, open up the, you know, like the shared chest and swap things in and out. Mm-hmm. She also has to hold charms, which can give her bullets more penetration or give her more damage or give her more knife durability. She has to hold them. Leon just puts them on the gun. Like, they're just attached to the,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, his stuff is all just action movie popcorn, over the top ridiculous, and a lot of fan service. They bring people back. They bring locations back. They bring like little moments back where you're like, hey, remember this? It's back. And it can get like a little too much where you're like, no, I really do remember. But like 7 and 8 were brand new enemies and brand new weapons and brand new locations and brand new characters. And this game is much more of the remakes of like, remember this note that you read back in the day? It's like, no, I remember reading the note. Why is the note back here? Like, why am I rereading this note? So you do have to sort of square that. It's like the Leon parts play. I mean, the way he controls the action is like top notch, dude. It's top notch. I love it. I want mercenaries, but his areas are not as like interesting the second go around when you're there in a big secret umbrella lab or when you're in that hospital. Like the first time around, it is so much more effective when you're her. And then the second time around, it's like just zip through. Doesn't matter. You're Leon. Get all those headshots. Kills reward you with points, and you bring the points to the little to his inventory box, which is a merchant. And you buy your things and you upgrade your things.
What are you buying?
Yeah, you don't even get a character like that. There's no merchant like that. It's just a box.
Oh,
it's just
it's
just an inventory box, and it has like a PS1 like menu.
Huh.
It's like, I don't know. Like the menu was like very
That's
like early
fascinating.
2000s. I was like, this is a weird vibe, but all right.
Okay. It sounds like not all of our fans are getting service. I assume there's no lower back tattoo cosmetic for him either, is there?
No, but I will say, some of the costumes you can unlock, especially in the deluxe edition, are phenomenal. Phenomenal outfits.
Okay, I'll look out for that. I am excited to see what kind of outfits we can get.
If you pre-ordered, you know that you're getting his jacket from 4, Leon's jacket from 4, and you get Lady D as Grace.
fun. That's
But
cool.
I think
Okay.
I know those were like pre-order bonuses. Maybe they'll sell them down the line. I will not spoil any costumes that you can unlock in the game normal edition, but they are very good. So yeah,
There have definitely been times playing this already where it feels bordering on self-parody. And hearing what you're saying about the larger context of the game really fascinates me in regards to what the 5 or 10 year plan for this franchise is. I saw somebody, a games journalist, I cannot remember who, suggest that this game was sort of about that the arc of the remakes, which has been Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4 in the last 6 years or so, has been about sort of correcting how meandering this franchise has been. So they're trying to the idea is that they're trying to shore up what the iconic core parts of Resident Evil are by making the remakes of 2, 3, and 4, and now Requiem is sort of a capstone for that, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
And I think kind of tracks, because if you're a modern gamer and you've been interested in Resident Evil but haven't been able to get your hands on the older stuff, you probably did just play the remakes of 2, 3, and 4. And Requiem is such a follow-up to Resident Evil 4 because we have Leon returning. I think there is something there. I think there's something there about what Capcom's sort of overarching plan for Resident Evil is, but I'm not certain what it is yet.
you took the words right
doing.
out of my mouth. I had the same thought. This game is, if you had played the remakes, it assumes you have played them. There's a point where he flashes back and he remembers himself from 2 in certain situations, and they use cutscenes from the remake of 2.
Interesting. Okay.
And it is very much like, this is the sort of endpoint of these remakes. I don't know where the franchise goes from here, but this seems like the sort of end of one era of RE. And I don't know if they're ever going to sort of continue what they were doing with 7 and 8 with the Ethan games.
Yeah.
But I know that there's going to be a Code Veronica remake. I know they'll get to 0. Who knows if they ever get to 1 again or 5. But they really should figure out what they're doing with the future, because so far this has just been a giant period at the end of the sentence that is, we're remaking these games for the modern era, and they will look and play great. And as much as I can love them and they can sort of hit these really high highs, I don't think anything will ever sort of approach what people felt playing the original in 96 or the remake in 2000, or what I felt playing RE4 in 2005. That game is gigantic. It blew my mind with the boss fights. It blew my mind with all sorts of things. And so far playing Requiem, I'm like, this game is awesome, but it's not going to blow my mind because this is so trying to sort of finish what the remake started and give a bunch of shout outs to the fans of like, hey, things from those previous games might come back. Who knows? Haha. And it's like, I know where this is going. I know who's coming back. I know what's going to happen. I know. I've played RE games before. I know where these end up, you know.
Do they bring back any of the mold storyline that they were doing in Biohazard and Village?
No. It is mutated T virus in that the zombies are
the classic.
are a little human now. You know, like the butler's trying to clean and the butcher is trying to cook, and they can say words. So that's an interesting wrinkle, is that the zombies are a little more human, which is cool because that tells a little bit of a story about who these people used to be, and you can sort of play around with, okay, well, if he's turning off lights, then I can shine a light and get him to come over here, and you know. But then as soon as you're Leon, you just smash his face in with your boot, and it's like, all right, well, that's problem solved. It is very interested in the 2 remake, sort of closing that storyline, and the Spencer, so like the Spencer files, the Spencer mansion, Spencer's, I think he died in 5. Like, it's a lot of stuff about Spencer and his research and things of that nature. So, I mean, I guess they technically worked in the Las Plagas and the mold stuff into the greater RE picture, and this is more of the larger picture of the Spencers and the connections and whatever Wesker was up to, and just like, T-virus in the laboratory.
Yeah, I think I mean, it seems like a real shame to give up on Biohazard and Village, because it's those games were so popular and so beloved that they are the reason that Resident Evil sort of got resurrected, so to speak.
Yeah.
Resident-rected.
Nice.
It didn't work. It didn't work. Because it's just like, yeah, Resident Evil 6 came out and it was like, okay, nobody was particularly excited. I mean, some people enjoyed it, but it wasn't like it wasn't the heights that Resident Evil had obtained previously. And then Biohazard came out and they were like, oh, it's a survival horror game again. And then Village was sort of the bridge to that, where it was sort of actiony, but you weren't like, you weren't Chris Redfield, except for the parts where you were Chris Redfield. Yeah. And it seems like just a shame for the franchise to be like, well, we know people liked these. We know you guys loved Lady Dimitrescu and all of the weirdos that we made for this game, but they're not a part of it anymore. We don't want that. We want this to be all about Raccoon City and everything that happened in that core storyline.
They're obsessed with Raccoon City.
But
they can never let it go.
It does seem like that's what this... I mean, yeah, that's a shame.
Well, if they had a completely new character instead of Grace, I could see that being a sort of opening for the future, or a sort of like, we're still interested in doing new. Grace's mother was a playable character in Outbreak. She was a journalist, and so they incorporate a little bit of her, backstory into what's going on here. So that it's not quite, you are the chosen one, Grace, you're Harry Potter, but it is like, there's a little bit of legacy stuff. With 7 and 8, it was like a completely different setting. It was the Southern Gothic. It was like shaky cam, swamp, and it was like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre family. And in 8, it was like werewolves and vampires and like a gothic Romanian. It was like
sea creatures.
Yeah, it was
like
so in the same way that 4 was like Spain, but it was like there was a little Lord boy, Salazar, and it was just like so interested in like. And this game is so rooted in, especially the 2 remake, that there isn't as much new. There's a lot of returning enemies and a lot of returning familiar settings. And listen, it's the gameplay is as good as it's ever going to be, and this is a really, really great game. I understand why I got all the very high review scores, but I still like the remakes better and 7 and 8 better. I don't know if that's controversial. People are going to come yell at me.
You're fine. Let them yell.
I just don't think anything will ever top the original RE4. But you know what? Not everything has to be the greatest game ever made.
Yeah, it's a high bar. It's a high bar to set.
So keep plugging away. Well, obviously you'll share share your thoughts with the world about the game. It's still worth playing. But I would like to end by talking about the Resident Evil movie. I'm very, very excited about this Resident Evil movie, which is coming out September 18th of this year. I'm trying to convince my fiance that we should all go before our wedding in October, and she put her foot down and said, "No, that will not be happening."
Not a horror fan.
No, she doesn't get it. She doesn't understand why I have The Lighthouse and Barbarian and Longlegs and Weapons all on Blu-ray. She doesn't get it.
So you're like a Krieger fan. Krieger? Do you know how to pronounce it?
No, well, we're just going to stick with Krieger, I guess.
All right. So you're like a big Krieger fan. You loved Barbarian and Weapons.
Yeah, I really got into, I guess, what they call elevated horror within the last 10 to 15 years, like Hereditary, Ari Aster, and Robert Eggers movies. God, Eggers and Krieger. Whew. They should start a production company. I really, really got into that stuff in a way that I had never done with, I don't know. Like, I went to go see like Alien versus Predator in the theater and Freddy versus Jason, but I was like, okay, that was fun. But this modern stuff is, for some reason, it sort of hooked me. Whether just because of the weird art house aesthetics or just because of like, let's just see how committed and crazy we can get Robert Pattinson and how like, like how many crazy things we can get Anya Taylor-Joy to do, like Nosferatu so yeah, so Resident Evil coming out this year has literally nothing to do with any of the games.
Oh, really?
Yes. Zach Kreger has stated they gave me the IP, and I'm not interested in having anything to do with the events of Leon or Chris or Jill. This is within the world, but it's all new characters and all new story. And I'm learning this for the first time. I'm looking up the cast.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the drug addict from Weapons?
Not really.
That like creepy guy who was like hooked on drugs, and he would interact with the police officer, played by the guy who played Han Solo. Well, that actor is the main character. His name is Austin Abrams.
Okay.
It also has Paul Walter Hauser, most recently seen as Mole Man in Fantastic Four, First Steps. Zach Cherry from Severance.
Okay.
I love Zach Cherry.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
And Callie Reese, who is starring opposite Jodie Foster in the 4th season of True Detective.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, interesting actors. I'm like, I like all these people.
Yeah, an interesting cast.
And he just came up with an idea, and it happens to fit the whatever zombie nonsense is going on in the world of RE, and no one knows a thing about it. There's nothing. No set photos, no poster, I mean, it's like completely just, it's out when it's out.
Yeah, I mean, it was only, I think, fairly recently announced that he would be directing it. I say relatively recently. It was a while ago, but I think that's why I was so surprised to hear that it was coming out in this year. It was supposed to come out this year. So I'm like, but it was just announced. Here's what I'll say is that I saw Barbarian. I saw Weapons in theaters. I respect a lot of what he does, but I don't really enjoy his movies. I find them to be a little bit scattered. There's always so many ideas, and the scenes sort of slip on the string one after the other in a way that is very satisfying. But when you pull back and look at it, it feels like they've all slipped off the string. And it's like you remember putting them on, but they never stacked up to anything. That's just how I feel about. I always am entertained while I'm watching his movies, but when I get to the end of them, I'm like, that's it. It has been washed from my mind, like scribblings on a beach. So I'm not necessarily excited about the Resident Evil movie. What I am excited about is to see what this man does with an IP. Because like Weapons and Barbarian were both such crazy movies, and they were crazy movies because he was just like, I'm just gonna run with these ideas. I'm so curious what he does with something that has a little bit of a framework in it, like Resident Evil does. I think there's a chance I might love this movie. I think this might be the chance that I'm gonna really enjoy what he does with a movie where he has a little bit of structure built in. But without knowing more, I mean, I have to assume he's going to be focusing on the Umbrella company. Because if you're telling a story in Resident Evil, but you're not telling a story based on any pre-existing characters, you're either telling a story that's set in Raccoon City, which would be a little bit obvious.
Yeah.
Or you're doing something that is delving into the Umbrella company. That's my guess.
Well, your guess is as good as mine. He has quite a bit of a budget. This is Sony. He's got apparently $80 million to $100 million to play with.
Good for him.
And the main character is Brian, a medical courier. So I could very easily see this being a courier delivering organs, and they're in Raccoon City, and then things one night just are a little off, and then things get even worse and worse and worse, and who knows where it goes. But yeah, I saw Weapons in the theater, and I saw Barbarian with some people, and they are so much fun to be in a crowd with when you watch these movies.
Yeah.
Like seeing Longlegs in a big crowd, or seeing The Monkey, or like these movies. Malignant, that was another one. Like crowd pleasers. They're just crazy, wild crowd pleasers. And I don't know if 20 years from now I'm going to look back fondly on them like I do The Shining and Alien and Silence of the Lambs or Misery, where there's a little more to chew on, or there's a little, like, they're very memorable characters, very iconic scenes and moments. I mean, I'll never forget Gladys.
Oh, God bless Gladys.
I hope she wins the Oscar. But I could see someone coming out of those and being like, "Wow, that was nuts. What did we learn?" A shoulder shrug. But I like what he's doing and how he's doing it. And so I'm equally fascinated to see, because there have been way too many live action attempts at this franchise, considering all the other video games that could like easily have adaptations. They keep trying with RE, which is admirable, but it's wild.
Yeah, I mean, zombie stories never go out of style. Body horror, weird medical company stories never go out of style.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, I think the interesting thing about Cregger's films is that they're always, I say always, there's two examples, and I'm gonna combine them together into a straight line. But both of those movies are about really isolated pockets of really insane things happening. And so you have all these people who are just sort of trying to go about their day, or just trying to live their life, or just trying to fall asleep in this Airbnb they've rented. And things are just getting crazier and crazier around them. And if we think about how that would function, I could see somebody living in Raccoon City just trying to like keep their shit unlocked as more and more horrific zombie monsters or Frankensteins are like overflowing from this underground umbrella pit. I think there's something about that could be really engaging with what he does. And he always, I mean, he comes from a comedy background. I think his movies are always quite funny in unexpected and sometimes quite dark ways. And I think that works so well with Resident Evil, because Resident Evil is so silly. It's so camp. It's so just bonkers in ways that I find really satisfying, but I know not everybody does. And I think Cregger's could do something really great with that kind of vibe.
I believe he joked doing the press junket for Weapons that his background in sketch comedy mirrored Jordan Peele's with Key and Peele, and also mirrored Alfred Hitchcock's when he was in The Little Rascals, which is just an untrue statement, but it's just very funny to think that all these horror directors had to be in sketch comedy, and then they were like, "What if I scared people instead?"
I mean, I think if you're good at comedy, there's something you probably understand essentially about the human condition. And I think that can be a great basis for building on horror. I think there's a lot of overlap between comedy and horror. I mean, as you mentioned earlier, if you see a really good, thoughtfully prepared jump scare, it can sometimes be like satisfying in a way that makes you laugh, because it's like, oh, you got me. In the same way that like a really good punchline can be like, well, you knocked, but I did laugh, so okay.
Yeah, it's all about timing, man. It's like good timing is a good jump scare, and good timing is a good punchline to a joke. So,
yeah. So I don't know. I'm gonna see it in theaters. Obviously, I'm really curious to see what he does with it. My heart is open to love his work. And this could be the one.
Okay. Listen, this is a safe space as long as everyone is open to interpreting and enjoying or experiencing art in ways that just move you. You don't have to like go into like looking at a painting at a museum and be like, this better be good, this painting. My expectations, it's like, no, just see what happens, Boy, his last work really sucked. This painting better be, people don't.
I think it'll be, even if it's middling, I think it's going to make all its money back and more. I think it will be very popular.
Oh, that is undoubtedly true, because I'll be seeing it 20 times in the theater. No, that's not true. Jenna, this was such a pleasure and a blast. Can you tell the good people where they can find more of your work on the internet?
Oh, it's on the internet Is that enough? Look at my name and how it's written, and then type it into your favorite search engine, and you'll find me. I stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/the_Jenna. Right now, I'm streaming Resident Evil Requiem.
Nice.
I would have guessed. And you can find me on YouTube. I have an account under Jenna Stoeber. It's there. I do video essays about video games and horror sometimes. A lot of video game stuff these days, but I want to chew down on some more horror stuff soon. So keep an eye out for that there.
And if you enjoy our work, videogame.town. All of the social media links are up there. We got little widgets, little images of the blue sky and the TikTok and the whatever. This has been amazing. I hope everyone checks out RE9. It'd be so weird to watch this and be like, Resident, I gotta look this up. This is interesting.
Resident Evil? Never heard of
Biohazard.
it.
Oh, of course, Biohazard. Everyone's heard of it.
Biohazard. Oh.
Which is such a better name.
Yeah.
It's a better name.
It really is. Resident Evil is it's
Nonsense.
terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible.
It's good because the guy sometimes goes, Resident Evil. But, like, that's it.
The best. That is truly the best. Yeah, I miss when they did that. I was really, they gave so much fan service in this game apparently, but none of it for me in particular, because I wanted, when I clicked through, for them to go, Resident Evil Requiem.
May I suggest in the bonus options or the settings, there's classic sounds and classic background music.
Oh, yeah, I saw that option under the difficulty settings as well, where you can choose to play the difficulty setting like classic.
Yeah, with ink ribbons.
I'm fascinated. Yeah. I was so tempted, but I was like, no, I'm a modern gamer and a modern woman. I'll play the modern version.
Maybe on the second time, do those classic sounds. That's all I'll say.
Yeah? I do think that I will love that.
There you go. That's a tease. All right. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.